Hello, welcome to the thrilling conclusion of our Alien season, a trilogy of episodes chronicling the franchise started by Ridley Scott in 1979, to which he has once again returned with Alien Covenant. We recorded this a few days before it was released, so our conversation is speculative in fashion. 2 weeks ago we started this season with the Alien quadrilogy. Last week we followed it up with a look at the Alien vs. Predator films, and this week we're having a big delve into Prometheus. This episode contains spoilers for Prometheus, though some would say Ridley Scott spoiled that one already. Hello, welcome to the finale of Alien season, the third and final thrilling part of us looking at the Alien franchise. So we've done all the real Alien films, and then we did the really shit ones, and now we're landing somewhere in the middle, I suppose, today with Prometheus.
Yeah. I guess it's set in the same universe, but it's not exactly a direct prequel, is it? To the original Alien.
I feel as if it's as much of a direct prequel as most of the sequels are direct sequels, other than I suppose you haven't got Sigourney Weaver in there as Ripley.
Yeah. I remember because I remember tracking the production of this in magazines and on the internet and stuff, and I remember it was very confusing because for the longest time it was going to be an Alien prequel. Ridley Scott's doing this Alien prequel, and then all of a sudden it came out, no, it isn't. And he said, no, it's not actually, but he said something along the lines of, but it's got strands of alien DNA in there.
Yeah,
and then everyone was kind of like, well, and then everyone was kind of like, what? What does that mean? And then
we watched the film
out.
and we were like, so what does it mean?
It means that Damon Lindelof came in and completely rewrote the other guy's script, which was a direct prequel.
He's good, isn't he?
Damon Lindelof.
Everyone likes him, right?
You know what? This was around the time where I felt like he was getting so much work. He was on being rumoured for everything. Every big film was, Damon Lindelof. And didn't he do a Star Trek around this point? And now it doesn't seem like he does films anymore.
Well, I'm glad, because I think those Lost guys are the biggest hacks in Hollywood. They are shit. Damon Lindelof is shit. Alex Kurtzman, is he called? What's the other one?
Oh, yeah,
His writing
Robert
partner.
Orkey.
Yeah, they are. One of them's not as bad as the other two, but the two that are always together are really fucking shit. They
did a couple of Transformers, yeah.
They are They got lucky with the Star Trek films. They kind of made those work, even though they've got big flaws. Lost is just... it's the ramblings of an Alzheimer's patient, made into reality. It's just fucking nonsense. It's not well written. Cowboys and Aliens is dreadful, but could have been good fun.
I like that film.
World War Z is... I'm sure we'll do an episode on it at some point, but I cannot stand what the people who made that film did with that book. It is so badly written. Tomorrowland is a bag of shit, and Prometheus. And the thing is, it's not that he just writes dreadful films. It's that he takes stuff that could be pretty good and just ruins it. Prometheus, I'm not a fan. But the makings of a good film, the makings of a great film are there, and it pretty much comes down to the writing as to why the film doesn't work for me. And the same's true of pretty much everything Damon Lindelof's worked on. I have massive problems with the writing, even in the stuff of his that I like Star Trek. The big problems in that film are with the writing.
Well, I think it's interesting. They do interview again. These films have great, hours and hours of bonus material that I sat through, and they have the original writer John Spates, I think is how you pronounce it, and he's talking about his idea, and he was commissioned by Ridley Scott's company to do the thing, and it was like, it all sounded really good, and then at some point someone came in, he'd never actually written a released film yet, and someone came in and said, we need someone more experienced in it, and then Damon Lindelof came in and basically, by the sounds of it, John Spates had a coherent, 2-hour-long story. It was gonna connect up to Alien, and it could have worked. And then Damon Lindelof came in and said, "We don't need to answer that. We don't need to answer that."
Yeah, my understanding is his script was Prometheus as we see it, but in the last third, it transitions into an Alien movie, and it's people running around dealing with a xenomorph thing, and it. I started trying to read it for this episode, but I ran out of time, sadly. So I've read the first 15 pages of Alien Engineers. It's the first 15 pages. Yeah, almost identical for the first 15 pages. There's a few differences, but
and that's his original script, not the one
I believe
Lindelof.
So. Yeah, this is the one by the John Spates, is he called?
Yeah.
Yeah. This was his original script. It's available online if anyone wants to read it. So I do want to finish it. I just, like I say, I ran out of time, annoyingly.
There's an audio commentary on the film, on the Blu-ray, and it's John Spates and Damon Lindelof recorded separately, but they're merged into one track, and you just get the sense that John Spates is watching the film being
that just sums up the script.
He's just at points, he's like, yeah, well, in my script we explained this, and he doesn't sound terribly happy with what happened to it. Alan, how do you feel about the film as a big fan of Alien?
I didn't like it.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's very bad.
Oh.
My main problem with it is that the characters are all really unbelievable. They don't behave how people behave. Yeah. They don't speak how people speak. The storyline is messy, I think. A lot of it doesn't really tie up. But I appreciate it's trying to do quite a lot with it. It's trying to kind of use some kind of complicated ideas and pulling a lot of things together. Which it doesn't really succeed in doing. There's a lot of things I don't really understand about it, frankly.
I really hate this film, but it's similar to how I feel about It Follows, which we did an episode on a while ago, and I sort of explained that it winds me up more than a truly awful film because there's so much potential on screen. There's so much that it's so close to being brilliant, and it just squanders it. It's remarkably well directed for the most part. The casting, the performances, the special effects, the cinematography, all the elements come together really well, apart from the script. And even the script, it has so many great ideas in it. It's really ambitious. It sets up the first 2/3 of the script are great, to be honest. I was so on board with this film when I watched it in the cinema for the first 45 minutes or so, and then it just suddenly begins to just unravel, and every decision the people making the film took was wrong. And it just that's why this film annoys me so much, even though if I'm objective about it, it's probably on the better half of Alien movies overall, put it that way. But anyway, Calvin, what about you?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm going to be the lone positive voice then. I'm not sure if I'd go as far to say I love the film, but I really, really, really like it. It's and I think the biggest problem with it is that it's not long enough, and I think watching the deleted scenes, there is a lot of stuff in there that should be in this film, and I think we'll probably talk about those specific moments a bit more as we get into it.
Do you think we'll have a director's cut released in 10 years' time that saves the film, and everyone decides it's actually really good?
Possibly, who knows? I mean, is it really dogged on? Is it? I guess it kind of is by fans, but my impression was that it got decent reviews, and
yeah, I think most people slag it off, don't they? I don't think it's. I mean, certainly filmy people and Alien fans and stuff tend to criticize it, but you're right. Reviews weren't awful.
Yeah,
I think it's got a decent Rotten Tomatoes score, hasn't it?
So some people do like it, but I just very rare. I don't think I've ever come across anyone else that has liked it. But I think we covered this a bit in Ghost in the Shell, and I have a similar thing here where even though logically there are a lot of things that don't work, and I agree that a lot of blame is put on the script. Sometimes if a film works for me on a thematic level, I can just totally go with it and ride it, and if it looks beautiful like this film does, I'm willing to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It really does work for me on that thematic level. Like, it really hits a lot of buttons that do it for me. And it like you say, it's a gorgeous film to look at. So I just feel like it should have been a hell of a lot better. And I just really don't know what Ridley Scott was thinking, to be honest, that he kind of shepherded the script to the point that he did and decided that was the best form of the film.
Yeah. Well, I think Ridley Scott, like, he isn't a writer, and I think he does work in a much more visual sensibility. I think from what I gather, like, listening to interviews and stuff, he tends to have ideas for, like, scenes, and then it'll bring in a writer and say, okay, I really want to do this. Can you make that happen? Can you put it in a script? It's sort of like Hitchcock would do a similar thing. I think he works really well with individual scenes. Like, Prometheus is a film comprised of wonderful, like, 5 to 10 minute scenes and sequences that I think work really well. It's just as a whole, it doesn't quite all gel together. And I think that's because he does just focus in on those 5-minute bits.
I couldn't appreciate the individual scenes either because the characters are so terrible, and they're just completely unbelievable.
Wait, I mean, come on, which ones?
All of them. None of these people act in a normal way.
Well, I don't know about that. I think Elizabeth Shaw kind of do. I mean, are you talking about like the moments when they discover alien life and the gravity of the situation? Because I agree, and that's something that I think comes in more in the deleted material. Because it's like these people effectively find God, and they just seem to be kind of all right with it. It's like, oh right, well yes, let's get suited and go and talk to them then.
And I must admit, I rewatched the film last night so it would be fresh in my memory, and because I hadn't seen it since I went to see it at the cinema, and it didn't even hold up as well as I remembered. Like, there were I was kind of, I suppose because I wasn't as on board with it, I was seeing all the flaws from the start, and that geologist character is what is that about? I don't know what he's meant to be from the get-go. Nothing about
so
it makes
angry?
sense. Yeah.
Fifield and Milburn are the two scientists. I really hate them.
Obviously, the way they deal with things later on as well, when they just sort of find some space goop and go, oh, let's play with this a bit. Let's run our fingers through it.
Oh, there's so much that like these scientist characters, when they take off the helmets for no reason, it's like, all right, maybe this one guy is a fucking maniac and he wants to do it, but they all follow because he can breathe. And it's like, no, hang on. You might be able to breathe, but number one, why would you risk it? Number two, you're in an alien environment. There'll be different bacteria and viruses and things knocking around you've never encountered. There's going to be stuff to factor in beyond the atmosphere that you're breathing. Not to mention the fucking bullshit with David earlier on. Go, why do you wear a suit, David? Oh, because I want to look just like you guys. And it's like, well...
No, he doesn't say that. He says that he
I don't want to freak you out, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and I think that's good reasoning.
That suit's not going to be cheap, and he's going to be putting it through unnecessary wear and tear, potential damage. It's going to be cumbersome for him as a robot. I don't think the people would be that upset by having him there not in a suit, because it's not like it's natural to talk to someone through a diving bell costume each anyway. So,
well, I must admit that bit didn't bother me. Like, his rationalization for it was like, okay, fair enough. But from a filmmaking point of view, why do that?
Yeah.
Why not just have him wandering around? Why even bring attention to it? Like, who cares? Why are they making a point of that?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't know why they did that. Was it a secret that he was a robot and they wanted to?
I think the idea was that David is a character fascinated or obsessed with like the human condition and human psychology and all that shit, and I just felt like it was a little bit of characterization for him, showing that he's really considered these things on a deeper level perhaps. I don't know.
I love how that character's introduced, by the way. Like, wandering around the spaceship.
Yeah, you talk about scenes that work as individual pieces, and I agree. I think his opening is fantastic. To be honest, I think the character of David is great. I really like him. To say Alan doesn't like any of the characters, I think David might be one of my favourite characters in the Alien
I can get on board
franchise.
with him being one of the best characters, and certainly in that film. Yeah, no, he's a good character. But then he's not human, is he? So apparently that's. I don't really get why he's like obsessed with trying to make himself look like Peter O'Toole, or whatever that was about. I guess it's just to show that he's not just a kind of mindless robot.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a personality. He's
thoughts and personality. Yeah.
And again, you could rationalize that from this guy's endearing. He's the protagonist of this film. Humans like him. I'm going to be just like him, so that the other humans find me endearing and pleasant to be around. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you can read into it if you choose to go beyond the sort of novelty of Fassbender doing his Peter O'Toole impression for the film.
So what about, should we talk a bit about Noomi Rapace, who is the main character in the film, Elizabeth Shaw?
Yeah, so just to get out of the way, the accent...
Oh, what the fuck is it? She had dialogue coaching, and then it wouldn't bother me so much if they didn't have the flashback sequence when she's dreaming, and she has the dream where she's talking to her dad when she's an 8-year-old girl, and the little girl is very, oh, daddy, what's all this? And it's like, at what point did that become... Like, no way is that even remotely passable as an English accent. Is it that hard?
Well, it is if you're not English, maybe. But the weird thing is, there's no reason a character needs to be English.
Well, that's the other thing.
I'm totally fine with
Sweden originally.
It
doesn't matter.
Exactly. But there's a lot of that in this film. There's a lot of that. We decided early on this character was going to have this trait, and we just haven't updated it. The other obvious example of that is Guy Pearce playing a 100-and-something-year-old man with really shit old age makeup on. It's just cast an old man.
Yes, just find an old man. They are around.
Well, this was like Guy Pearce was cast. There was going to be a point when David was going around all the different characters and seeing, what they were dreaming.
And we saw him as a young man or something.
Yes, it was going to be him as a young man with all these supermodels around him, and it was going to be, that's how he still views himself. And then I guess
that's why the Dr. Shaw all the way through the film is played by an 8-year-old girl, but just made up to look like That's right, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's fine. I don't mind it, and it got that really great bit of viral marketing out of it when he does the TED Talk, which is brilliant.
It's so jarring, though. He appears, and he's just... I wouldn't mind, but the makeup is shit. It's really shit. It's sub Back to the Future makeup, and Back to the Future was made, 20, 30 years earlier? It's just... He comes out and he looks like some sort of live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or something. It's not... And I think that's because he's meant to be so old. They've, done him up beyond what old people look like in real life. But just don't.
Well, here's an idea. How about take that character out altogether, because it adds nothing to the film.
He looks like fucking Brundlefly. He doesn't look like an old man. It's shocking.
The only bit that bothered me is when David's washing his feet and his feet don't look that
old. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So they obviously put all the attention on the face.
Yeah.
I like that character being here,
but it's just not relevant. It doesn't add enough to justify the time it takes up.
His whole reason for being there is that he wants to live forever, and that's why he's funded this incredibly expensive expedition. I don't know how it could have worked with him not being
justification
there.
Of why his character behaves like that. It's not. It doesn't add enough to the film from a filmmaking point of view to justify having it in. You don't even need that character. Hey, we found this thing. It's a star map. Okay, we'll pay for you to go up and go and have a look at it. And then have the Charlize Theron character or whatever. But it doesn't need it.
You could even have you could have that whole he's bankrolling this and there's some ulterior motives without him being on the ship without him coming along for the ride.
Because it doesn't pay off. Because they wake him up and he goes to meet his maker and then he gets killed. It's just like there's no payoff to it at all.
I don't know, but I like him there because of the conflict that it brings out in Charlize Theron and Michael Fassbender. And I think this whole film is about...
But they're in conflict right from the beginning.
Yeah, but why are they in conflict? They're in conflict because they both got the same dad, and the dad cares more about the robot than he does his own daughter.
But is she a robot as well?
Ah, well... Is she? Yes, discuss. Well, you know, Charlize Theron was originally going to play the lead role, and something happened, like Mad Max Fury Road went over schedule, or, you know, something like that happened, and she couldn't accept that, and they cast Noomi Rapace, and then they brought her in for Meredith Vickers' role. Originally, it was going to be either Michelle Yeoh or Angelina Jolie, apparently, in this part.
And they would have played it as a human?
Sorry, that was just a bit of an aside.
But and it seems to be deliberately vague that we don't really know if she's human or not. And like it's even acknowledged in the script when Idris Elba says, "Oh, you a sex robot gonna shag you," and then, but then it's never again. Well, she doesn't really pay off.
She says, "Meet me in that room in 10 minutes' time," and he goes, "Oh, all right then," and then. Presumably she's human, because otherwise he'd be, like, mentioning it later on or something.
Well, just because he shags her doesn't mean he's going to know if she's human or not. They're very good, these robots.
I really like her character. I mean, this is a tick box. Calvin likes icy blonde women in suits in films. That's just a special little thing for me. So I love her. I love the conflict with David. I think it's really nice when it's revealed that Wayland's actually her dad later on.
Oh, I don't. I hate that.
No.
Again, that's another scene where...
It's so like, ooh, father! It's...
And so obvious as well. Like, what else was it going to be? Like, she was just a really devoted employee.
I think that scene is even better in the extended version you see in the deleted scenes. There's a lot more dialogue.
It's the way she says it. It's the delivery on that line. She says something like, "No, I won't do that, father." And it's like she's waiting for the audience watching the film to, like, die, like, to stop, like... Yeah, she's waiting for the audience gasp to die down before... It's played so weirdly for a feature film.
And then at the end, when she is killed, we don't actually see her being killed, so then I was thinking... Okay, so now she's going to, like, pop up and she's been a bit squashed, but she is a robot and she's still alive or something like that, or she was strong enough to survive it, and then, like, that didn't happen. I don't know.
Well, again, like, I do think initially the idea was Prometheus 2 was going to be made and it was going to pick up exactly at the end of the first film and just carry on. So I wouldn't have been surprised if Ridley Scott had that in the back of his mind, like, well, she can be an antagonist as they're trying to run around, do stuff on the planet. I don't know, but because it was going to be Noomi Rapace and Michael Fassbender's head, like, going on an adventure, which they haven't done, but whatever.
I guess we'll see what happens. Like, Noomi Rapace has been, like, in and out of the upcoming film Alien Covenant, and I think she is in it now. And David is in it, but Michael Fassbender's also playing another character.
Well, I knew he was in it. I just assumed he was playing another robot called David because I heard they were moving away from that. But maybe not. Maybe they are doing a more straightforward sequel. And
Right? Shall we talk about? Can we talk about the religious parallels in the film?
Oh, okay then. Yes.
Because I don't think it's necessarily out of place. Because
of course,
all this stuff is about meeting your maker and humans creating androids that are almost human and like is David see this guy as his father or his creator and all that sort of stuff, all relevant. But then I feel like it's just played really badly because the religious character, as in old school religious character, is Shaw.
Yeah.
But it's never really justified her kind of faith, especially from someone who is a scientist. And then
it's not even that. It's that they prod at it, and her best defense is, yeah, well, that's just what I believe in it.
Yeah. And that's presented as it's like some profound statement as well. And then when we actually meet their maker, so to speak, it's so far removed from this religious idea of what a god is, which is a made-up fictional thing. We're not questioning that. And I think it's an interesting idea there of like, what do you do if you find out the thing that created you and it's just like a normal guy, or it's just a big, giant, like, dickhead or whatever? Is that going to be disappointing? But it doesn't really play out like that. It's always like, it's kind of like, oh, they're not a god, and then before you get a chance to really digest any of that or make anything of it, they suddenly decide that these guys are going to try and kill them and go back to Earth and destroy all life. And I don't know where that came from. And then they suddenly turn on them and decide they have to kill everybody. And none of it made any sense to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can try and explain it to me.
No, I think that's pretty much it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, you've got it. It's just whether or not you go with it or not. Like, yes, the engineers were on their way back to Earth to, I guess, destroy the whole thing.
But were they? I didn't see anything in the film that suggested that.
Yeah, David figures it out when he's in the. He figures out that they were heading to Earth when he has his moment in the big beautiful blue projection thing. That's when he sees Earth and puts two and two together that they were.
But he sees Earth amongst a million other things, and he just picks it out because he goes, "Oh, that's Earth." There's nothing there that directly says, "Hey, we're going to Earth," and there's certainly nothing saying there, "We're going to go to Earth to destroy everything," because presumably they've been there before, and we kind of get the idea that they created, or at least sowed the seeds of what DNA became. And if we assume that opening scene that we see where someone dissolves himself into the water and it becomes. That's the idea, right? That's the sowing seeds for life.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, like, for example, Dr. Shaw is so disappointed to find out that it's not a kind of big man in the sky with a beard. Like, what was she expecting?
Is she
following the science? Well, she kills them all. Does that?
Well, I mean, it's either her or them.
They have that chat with David, and they sort of allude to the idea that it's a disappointment because David's sort of like, well, I can't be disappointed if I find out my makers just did it for the hell of it because I'm a robot. And the human's like, oh yeah, well, good for you.
I don't know, I think
that's it. Like, that argument doesn't make sense to me because if I met a creature who said, hey, billions of years ago we threw something in the oceans and it created life on Earth,
I'd be like,
I wouldn't then go, oh, that's really disappointing because I was hoping you were like watching over me like all times and like looking after me.
I think it would. I think that's the point. That it is disappointing because she kind of has what David went through. I mean, I guess we don't know enough about the engineers to know why life on Earth was created in the first place. Maybe there was a grand.
But neither does she. That's the point.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I understand her disappointment with it. I think, yeah, of course, it's.
Yeah, I guess.
How could you not be disappointed when you meet your creator? Yeah, exactly. She is religious, and
whereas we're people who don't day to day think that our worldview isn't. But built
I think
on
if you're in her position, if you're in her position and you've gone to the point where you're traveling through space to find out an alien life form that has directed you to them, surely you're not thinking about God. Like, I mean, there's even based on the cave paintings they've found, there's no evidence to say, hey, these guys created us. It could be you could be thinking, hey, some aliens visited Earth and left as a chart.
Well, that's the thing. If you believe in God, like God made the engineers as well. Like,
yeah, who made the engineers?
Well, exactly, and they
if you want to.
They do say that in the film. It's like, well, who made them?
So it's only like you can only really draw parallels and stuff. It doesn't work as an outright replacement for God or religion and what have you. And I don't know. I think that goes back to what you were kind of saying, just that the religious connotations and analogies are a bit messy in the film. You don't quite ever know what they're trying to. And
then the other thing added to that is the fact that we find out she can't have children, and she's barren, but then she ends up being impregnated by something. Like, what's the analogy there supposed to be? That be careful what you wish for. Like, you want to create life, but it doesn't always.
Creation.
It doesn't play like anything more than an ironic Twilight Zone ending, though. Like, it's like Alan. It's drawing a parallel, but again, like I understand the dots that are being connected, but I don't understand like why or what the connection's meant to be.
It's about creation. Saying. She's frustrated because she can't actually create life.
Yeah.
And then she can. I'm not saying it. I mean, it is something that is there. I'm not saying that it is set up here and then it's paid off there and then it is just a part of the theme.
So it's like the engineers created life on Earth and it didn't turn out how they wanted it to. In the same way that she ends up creating life when she thought she couldn't, and it didn't turn out good either.
I guess you could look at it that
And
way.
then she has to destroy it. Is that the idea?
I guess you could look at it that way. I didn't really.
So it's about showing her hypocrisy then, because she tries to kill the thing.
It would have worked better if she had a child that grew up to be like a school shooter or something.
Need to talk about Kevin.
Yeah.
No, I mean, do you not think that these are interesting ideas that are being explored?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
think
just
they're
don't
interesting
think
ideas that are being explored badly.
Yeah. I don't think they're being like glued together very well.
I think it's fine. I like that it's all there. I think it doesn't necessarily need to fit together perfectly for me. But again, like we mentioned earlier, I think Ridley Scott does 5-10 minute chunks of great scenes, and just altogether it doesn't necessarily come together. But
So what's going on with those cylinders of like dark goo? And why does everyone think they're weapons of mass destruction?
Sol?
Well, what is that, like DNA shit?
It's like something
that infects
life,
people.
Something.
And
Well, it turns worms into giant eel monster horse penis things.
Can we talk about that? Because that is one moment in the film where I'm completely out of it. When there is the
squid
two.
man.
When
Rafa Spall goes touching the horse penis.
yes, when the biologist and the geologist are
God.
separated from the group.
Oh, I
and
hate that scene.
Instead of just staying put until the storm's over and then they can be rescued, they decide to wander around this pyramid.
Wait, can we
And I don't
Can we deal with
mind
first
that
why
so
they
much,
left
'cause-
the group in the first place?
Oh, I know.
Because-
Yeah.
Because basically they go on this expedition, which apparently they don't know anything about, involves them being asleep for several years to travel somewhere. But they just go, yeah, I can volunteer for that. They don't get told what it is. Then they wake up, they get told what it is. Hey, we're here to find an alien species that may have visited Earth many years ago. Cool. Oh, look, there's a dead alien body that's obviously been there for years. I'm getting out of here. This is fucking freaky shit.
It's later on.
Not like, well, I'm a biologist. This is fascinating. I'm a geologist. Look at this. There's a terrain here that I've never witnessed before. This is going to be absolutely fascinating.
A skeleton.
No.
Ah!
I need to go shave the sides of my head.
It's really that whole bit with those vagina snakes. I mean, I've got to mention did H.R. Giger come back to work on this one? Did he do some?
Well, he came back and sort of gave some opinions, but by the sounds of it, I mean, he was getting on a bit, and I think he died not
really?
too long into the production.
Well, I was going to say, like, as much as this film looks nice, the creature designs are like they're not up to Alien standard.
No,
like those vagina snakes are so just transparent. You can just see they've gone, oh, well, H.R. Giger, he makes stuff look like dicks, so we'll make a thing that looks like a vagina a bit, and it's a snake, and it's so just lazy, and it just doesn't play properly, and I really hope they sort that out in future films, because it is.
The thing with that vagina snake is, like, they see this thing, and this, again, there was a cut scene, it's in the deleted scenes, where they actually find the first bit of alien life, and it's this tiny little worm-like thing, and Rafe Spall has a moment where he's like, oh, great, oh, wow, and then, they get their moment of wonder out then. So I can kind of I could buy into the scene that's in the final film where they see this giant snake thing more, if that had been kept in.
Yeah, that would work a lot better with that other scene in it. Why the hell did they take that out?
Well, exactly, because it's like, no, you need to get out. You need to get that out, because they just come across this like alien thing, and Rafe Spall's like going up to him, being like, "Oh, hey, girl."
That's it, like it's a fucking puppy that he's just.
Yeah, it's like it's hissing at him, and it's obviously pissed off, and he's
that's the thing. Like, even if you ignore that this is the guy's first encounter properly with alien life, so even if you don't have the whole, he's not really dealing with it in a wondrous, oh my god, alien life way. Just if it was a snake, just a normal land snake behaving like that, you wouldn't go up to it and go, "Oh, hey, little snake, hey."
And you know what annoyed me even more than that? The other guy, the geologist, he starts smoking something at some point, and Rafe Spall's like, "Oh, is that tobacco?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then so presumably he's fitted his spacesuit with a bong?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
I expect Damon Lindelof thought it was funny.
Because he's stoner, dude.
Yeah. Can you talk about a scene that I think really works, and I'm curious to get your opinions on it? The scene where the alien is removed from Noomi Rapace in the med pod.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? Because I think it is brilliant. I absolutely love that scene.
As a scene, it works because you feel the tension. She's desperately trying to do all this stuff. But then I think part of my problem was by this point I'm already seeing all the logical flaws in it. And when you start going against a film, you just start pulling up everything there is.
Right, yeah.
So just the simple thing of she goes in the Medipod and it says, oh, this is only catered to males. Now I know that's supposed to be a hint that what's his face? Guy Pearce is, it's his Medipod. But what sort of medical anything is geared towards one gender? It doesn't. Plus, it doesn't make any difference. I know it is just a hint, but it doesn't make any difference because she just says, "Oh, well, cut this foreign body out of me," and it does that anyway. Yeah. But then the Medipod thing itself, it's not like some cool futuristic Medipod. It's just robot with so it just does a big scalpel cut with metal hands, and then forceps hands pull something out. It's there's nothing cool sci-fi about it. And then it staples her together. It doesn't even cauterize the fucking wound or anything.
What do you want? I mean, this incredible machinery, this doesn't exist in real life, does it?
But no, I want it to kind of put a little scan over her.
Shoot some proteins over the wound to form new skin.
Yeah, and then it just binds together and creates scar tissue immediately or something like that.
This is only supposed to be 8 years in the future.
Because then it'd be more believable that she jumps up and starts running around.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean that is a bit. Yeah, I love the scene. I think it could go one better than the John Hurt chestbuster.
Behave yourself.
Yeah, no, I think it's
at best it's a competent chain of events. It doesn't. Yeah. I really don't think it's particularly there's tension, I guess, and you're thinking, oh, is she going to get it out? But then she does, and it's oh well, that was that.
I also really love the whole sequence where Idris Elba is going to go and crash his ship into the big alien ship, which is setting off, and Vickers is running around the ship trying to get out in time, and then
wait. Oh no, I thought you were going to say you like the bit when she's running away from the.
I do.
Why?
Well, she can't understand the concept of running horizontally.
I mean, admittedly, yes,
she's a robot
away from the thing.
It's not. She's not had it programmed into her.
And really, she really would only have to take 3 steps to the left or right because Shaw falls over and rolls twice, and she's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I can go with it because it is a brilliant scene.
But it's comical. It plays. It doesn't play how it's supposed to because it's so stupid. People don't run in a straight line from things like that. That isn't how you don't just. Oh God, it's so stupid.
I'm not saying it makes sense. I just am saying that I like it. We never actually find out what went wrong on the engineer ship. Do we? What actually caused them all but one to die?
Oh, no, I had no idea what was going on at all. Because then all of a sudden they're talking about how they were going to go to Earth and kill everyone. I don't know where that came from.
And that's the thing. I don't need to know outright, but I need some hints. I need you to kind of go, this is what we think happened, but we'll leave it to you to make your own mind up. But there just isn't any of that.
It is just the Damon Lindelof writing style, I guess, isn't it? It's like on Lost. It's there was no ending when they started. It was just all made up as they coasted along.
Yeah. And they pretended they had some big, grand plan, but they didn't. They just made it up as they went along, and you can tell. The proof's in the pudding. If I watching it, I would say this feels like something that's been made up as it goes along. It doesn't. It's not building to anything, and that's what Prometheus feels like. And that's why it's so great for the first half hour or first 40 minutes, because you're thinking, all right, great. I wonder how they're going to bring this all together. Oh, they're not. They've not put any thought into it or anything.
It does end very abruptly, admittedly. I mean, basically, it just ends with Shaw is alive with David's head, and she decides that she's going to go to the engineer's home planet.
Yeah, and that's weird as well. Like,
I'm not quite sure what she thinks she's going to get, because she seems so hell-bent on surviving and being alive. It seems to be, survival seems to be a driving force for her.
And then suddenly she decides that this suicide mission is worth doing just so she can kind of get a few more answers instead of just going home and living a life.
I mean, could you imagine if she turned up on Earth in that ship and was like, hey, everyone.
Yeah, look at all this amazing stuff we discovered. We can send more manned missions to this thing and go back more prepared and properly study all this shit. And
what if she reaches the engineer's home planet, right? She lands. They greet her with open arms, say, "Oh, hey, this is really cool. You've far surpassed what we expected you to be able to achieve." And then and they can communicate. And then she goes, "Well, why did you create life on Earth, and why were you going to destroy it?" And they said, "And what does she expect? They're just going to go, well, we're going to destroy it because it was a failed experiment. Like you've killed the planet, and then now you're getting off the planet, and we need to kill you before you start spreading to other parts of the universe." What? And she's going to go, "Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah." Like, what is she going to say? I don't get what.
But I think the more realistic thing is that she'll get to their planet and they'll shoot her. Anything else, or shall we move on to the future of?
Yeah, I think we should.
Well, Alien Covenant.
We're just sticking random words after colons now. No one cares anymore.
Like, it went into production as Prometheus 2.
Yeah.
And then that became Prometheus... Was it like Paradise Lost or something?
Yeah, it was going to be called...
That became Alien Paradise Lost, and then that became something else? Or...
Yeah, have you seen the trailer for it?
Alien Covenant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the trailer... The first trailer came out on Christmas Day, did it? Or it was certainly around Christmas, and I watched it, and I just thought, ooh... This looks shit. And I've since seen I think a longer, perhaps international trailer or something, and I've come round to it with a bit like more footage in there. But initially, I just thought it looked like they'd learned all the wrong lessons from Prometheus. It looked like they'd thought about it for a while, and they'd come to the decision that people didn't like Prometheus because it was too far away from Alien, so they just needed to remake Alien. And so the trailer was it just looked like a really straightforward, generic, cheap slasher movie in space, down to the fucking shower scene at the end where the tail appears and then the woman goes, just covered in blood. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want to explore these interesting concepts a bit. I don't care about people being killed by an alien. It's not why I'm here, believe it or not. And I don't know, the newer trailer that has a bit more footage in there hints at maybe there being a bit more storyline. So I'm a bit more cautiously optimistic now than I was, but no, I still don't really know what to make of it.
David is in the film. Elizabeth Shaw's in the film. Guy Pearce is apparently in the film.
Oh, God.
So, be interested to see how that all ties together. But it does look like they are sort of swiftly moving away from Prometheus and sort of, starting again, really. It does just look like a remake of Alien, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is just, they go down to the planet, they get aliened, and then...
I hope there's a lot more Prometheus in there than they're leading us to believe. And it could easily swing either way at this point with... Ridley Scott's track record on this sort of thing, but I'm not convinced it's going to be any good, to be honest. I'm not. So I mean, Alien Covenant is the one we're getting, but
but the one we all want is...
Well, there's been a few, like, throughout the years. Alien 5 was something spoken of for a long while, wasn't it? With Sigourney Weaver coming back, and there was talk of it being set on Earth, and this and that. And then, I think it was after Prometheus 2 went into production, they announced the new, Alien 5, directed by Neil Blomkamp, but a newer project to any of the ones that have been mentioned before, Sigourney Weaver returning. the way they were talking about it, just picking up from the end of Aliens, like ignoring Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, which was very odd. I still can't really get my head around what this film would have been.
Well, yeah, because they were going to bring back Michael Biehn, and like Newt was presumably going to be there. It was going to be the three of them and Lance Henriksen as Bishop. Yeah. But then presumably they'd all be aged?
That was the weirdest part of it, yeah. Sigourney Weaver was like well on board with it, and that she seemed to be really into the idea, which was why it was moving ahead with Neil Blomkamp at the helm, despite his last few films not really meeting with a very good reception. It was shortly afterwards that Prometheus 2 changed its name to Alien Paradise Lost rather than Prometheus, and then it got shut down, and it would seem like Ridley Scott just basically threw his toys out of the pram and was like, no, what the fuck, guys, come on, I'm doing Alien, you're not doing Alien.
Yeah.
Which would make more sense if there hadn't been 3 Alien movies without his involvement.
But yeah, it's like he's decided all of a sudden that it's his franchise and he's the one who's going to pilot it all the way. It's like, never really thought of you as that, Ridley.
But he has said recently that he plans to make something like 6 Alien movies over the next few years. Some absurd...
That's quite optimistic for a man in his 70s, isn't it?
He's basically said he wants to make Alien movies for the rest of his life. That's just what he's going to do now, is making Alien movies. Yeah, I guess we should look at what we would do ourselves.
Yeah. I'll go. Oh, okay.
All right, so as a fan of the film Prometheus, this is going to be the one pitch that perhaps builds upon that film. I don't know.
Oh, don't set the bar too high. The title is God's Waiting Room. And it's I often have trouble coming up with pictures for stuff that I like.
Yeah, I've got to say I really struggle with this one because I like, even though I didn't like Prometheus, I was so on board with a sequel because the potential is there to tell a good story and the pieces are there. And I just want a sequel that, like I say, picks up at the end of Prometheus and answers the questions it sets out to ask and does it properly. I just want them to kind of follow through with what they were trying to make the first time. But I can't really pitch that because I want them to make it. So I think we're probably on the same page with that.
I've taken a leaf from Damon Lindelof's screenwriting tip book, and we're not going to solve any questions or answer anything. It's all just going to be set up for the next film. So
his screenwriting style is you answer questions with more questions. So Lost was. It was like, right, what's this smoke monster? Oh, well, the smoke monster, it's like a big polar bear that's there. Wait, why is there a polar bear there? Oh, because there's a big giraffe mutant. Well, why is there a giraffe mutant? Because they went back in time to stop a bomb from detonating like 5 days before they landed on the island. That was how that show worked. That's how he writes stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, well, anyway, my pitch. It's called God's Waiting Room. And we follow Elizabeth Shaw and the head of David, and they make it to the planet of the engineers. But there's like a big force field thing around the planet. They're very safety conscious. So she has to go through to the reception area and wait to be allowed through. She has to go through immigration and stuff. So she gets to the desk, and it's this like engineer with glasses and
wait. So what? How does
hair in a bun?
So what? The spaceship like docks with some.
Yeah. She parks it up. She gets out and she goes. She takes David's head with her, and she goes to the desk.
But what's the logistics? So she like buzzes in, and they go, oh yeah. Bzz, come in.
Yeah. No, they like come through, and then. So
they speak English, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course they are. They're like gods.
They created English people.
Yes. They've got a bureaucracy and proper channels. They've got a civilization, a society, and they need receptionists and things, proper procedures. So Elizabeth goes in and she's obviously like, "Oh my god, like, can you tell me the answers? Oh my god, what's..." And the receptionist is like, I just like work here part time. This isn't like I don't know what you're talking about. If you sit down for a bit, I can like get the immigration officer to come down and he'll probably answer some of your questions. And so she's like, "Oh god, okay, then fine." And then she sits in the waiting room. And...
What's the receptionist like?
Well, she wears glasses.
Is she a big pale engineer thing? Like really buff?
With glasses.
Has she got long nails?
No, just glasses.
She's not always like texting on her phone, but like letting her nails dry while she does it.
I mean, now she can, yeah. But, she's chatting and she's got a mate who's like coming in. And well, basically the next hour of film is just some sort of observational waiting room comedy as Elizabeth waits there with the head of David and they have some
what, in real time?
Yeah. And she's
it's like an episode of One Foot in the Grave. they do that quite a lot where it's just the two of them sat in a waiting room and there's no one else in it.
I was going to say that I thought of One Foot in the Grave when you said the name of the thing, God's
Waiting Room.
Yeah. That just sounds like an episode of One Foot in the Grave.
It does. Isn't there a sitcom called God's Waiting Room that's set in an old person's home?
It's called Waiting for God.
Oh, Waiting for God. That's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, so we have like bits where it's like this one engineer comes in and he's sat down and he's like he's a bit of an odd person and he's got like something on his shoe and he's like sort of fidgeting around and Elizabeth's just observing him. At one point, David has to go to the bathroom to like wash his face, but it's like the taps are really loud, so it's a bit awkward. And yes. And then she finally gets let in through the reception. She's like, "All right, yeah, you can go through now." And then she gets to the immigration officer, and she's like, "Why did you create us? Why all this?" And he's sort of like, "So what? I don't really know what you're talking about." And she's like, "I'm a human. I'm from Earth," and he doesn't really know what she's talking about, but he can send her to his superior who might be able to answer questions. And she's like, "Oh, brilliant, okay, great." And then she walks down the corridor, and then that's where the film ends.
Fuck you, Damon Lindelof.
Yeah, I think he'd be very happy with that.
Yeah.
Then in 5 years' time, we can come back and ask even more questions.
Yeah. Shall I do my one?
Yeah, go on then, Sol, if you want to.
I've decided to focus in on David for my sequel because David was the best thing in the film. I always thought it was a missed opportunity that they made him be into Peter O'Toole instead of David Bowie. So
I knew this was coming.
So instead of doing a proper sequel, because like I say, I want to see what I want them to make the proper sequel. I want to see what they come up with. It's not really my place to do so. So I've just I'm pitching an ongoing, a sitcom, I guess. It's on a spaceship. They're on another mission to some alien planet. You don't really know. So there's a human crew, but they're all in hypersleep or stasis or whatever it's called. So they're irrelevant. But what is relevant is the crew of robots that are looking after them and maintaining the ship. And we've got seven David Bowie robots here. And they're all, one of them's based on young Bowie. There's Ziggy Stardust, there's Thin White Duke, Berlin Bowie, Labyrinth Bowie, early 90s drum and bass Bowie. He's got a goatee, that one, so you can tell that he's like the evil one. And Old Man Bowie. And they're all knocking around on a spaceship, getting into shenanigans.
Can I ask who's playing them?
Probably get Michael Fassbender in. Actually, probably have 7 different people.
To play all of them? Yeah, you want different Bowie impersonators.
And let's get 7 different people in for one for each one, I guess, instead of having them all play the same. Yeah, I don't know. We might as well just digitally recreate all of them because no one can live up to David. So they're all just knocking around in space. So episode 1, the Bowies are throwing a high school reunion, and drum and bass Bowie wants to impress all the other Bowies by showing off what a big shot he is nowadays. So he wakes up a member of crew early. So this is where we get a celebrity guest star in. Could even be Sigourney Weaver or someone. Who knows? It could be anyone from the Alien movies. So he's waking them up to be his super hot girlfriend or wife, I guess. And he convinces them to go along with the story that he's a Silicon Valley owner of some internet business empire. And they go along to the high school reunion, and all the other Bowies laugh at him because they know who he is and they think he's a loser. And then so he puts the girlfriend back in stasis, but she's a bit flirty about it, just so that the audience can go ooh, and it ends on a high note. And that sets the tone for the series. That's what you're dealing with. It's a sitcom, a load of Bowies knocking around going wuzz. And episode 2, or this wouldn't be episode 2. This is the Christmas special, so this would be like episode 13 or something. Depends if this is a British sitcom or an American sitcom. All the Bowies are watching Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, and it turns out that Labyrinth Bowie has never experienced. He's never had a Christmas. So yeah, so all the Bowies are like, well, hang on, it's Christmas in a couple of days on this calendar. So they all throw Christmas for him. So it's Christmas Eve, and they're doing their usual thing, singing carols and blah blah blah. And then Berlin Bowie.
Does Bing Crosby turn up?
Yeah. He does. Berlin Bowie accidentally lets it slip that Father Christmas isn't real. And Labyrinth Bowie is gutted because he's only just found out about Father Christmas, and now he's had it taken away. It's really upsetting. So all the Bowies independently that night decide to dress up as Father Christmas, which in their warped Bowie sensibility takes the form of Bowie in that Bing Crosby sketch. So they all visit him that night and knock on the door and ask, Sid Percival lets me use his piano when he's not around. He's not around, is he? And so one by one they all come in and give him a Furby as a present, because that's the hot Christmas present.
What, in the future?
Who knows? It has a resurgence in whatever year this is set. The Furby. So you have a bit of farce with all these, Father Christmases coming in one after one after the other, with the same gift, and David Bowie, Furbies, and
it's like Jimmy Savile.
And then they all bump into each other at the end, and it's like, oh no, there's seven Bowie Santas, 7 Furbies all going mental at each other, and they're all laugh and apologise and all that usual stuff, and then they come to realise that the really important thing at Christmas is your family, and God, that was a bit Savile, wasn't it? They go about their business to enjoy the rest of Christmas as a family, but then Labyrinth Bowie, he's looking at his Furbies and he's got 7, and he thinks, hang on, there's only 7 Bowies including me. There should only be 6 Furbies. And he rushes outside of his room and he looks out the window into space and he hears jingle bells and ho ho ho, and he shouts out, and he sees out the window that there's this David Bowie in a sleigh and some reindeer out the window. So maybe he is real.
That's maybe David Bowie is real after all.
Maybe.
You really did pitch the Alien prequel that everyone wants to see there, didn't you?
It's a heartwarming Christmas episode. Yeah, I don't want to step on the toes of Ridley Scott. Neil Blomkamp tried it and he pissed him off. I don't want to piss Ridley Scott off too much, so I'm focusing on the estate of David Bowie instead. Hello, I'm David Bowie. I'm David Bowie too. Be brilliant.
My mother always told me there were no monsters, but there are.
Scary monsters. Alien : scary monsters and super crews.
Get away from her, you bitch. Don't you call me a bitch, you slag.
Anyway, Zyvid. So, Alan, what's your pitch for Alien? Prometheus. We've done Alien.
Yes. Right. Okay. My pitch is fairly conceptual. Not a lot of detail in it.
Planet Earth is blue.
I'm trying.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Major Tom Skerritt, who can be a guest star. Tom Skerritt appears as himself.
Okay. So my pitch, what I'm trying to do with my pitch is try and tie all these very loose strands of alien bullshit together.
Yeah, like how are you going to make David Bowie and Predator work in the same universe?
I'm not sure how much this is going to hold up to a lot of scrutiny, but I'll do my best. After Prometheus, Dr. Shaw and David, they get picked up by some kind of Earth-based ship. Basically, they get taken back. The company get their hands on them. David tells them everything that's going on and what they've discovered. Yeah, David, who's now apparently played by David Bowie. Being like the ruthless, evil corporation that we know and love, they have to get rid of Shaw because she's trying to screw them over. So they brand her a lunatic, put her in a hospital or something, but basically make sure she's no trouble. And then they send a new team back to the moon or whatever it was to get some loads of samples and figure it all out. But this time, instead of sending a load of badly characterized people, they send their company sanctioned evil scientists. So they know they won't try and ruin everything. They'll play ball. They get loads of samples. They get all this material. They've got material from the engineers, from the xenomorph thing that came out of it. Obviously, this is the start of their long-running bid to create some sort of weapon out of the xenomorph thing. So they're running loads of tests and experiments. And eventually, they get to grips with the DNA of all of it. With their futuristic technology, they're able to harness this and use specialized breeding to create the ultimate living weapon, the xenomorph, the one with which we are so familiar. Because at the end of Prometheus, it's not really the same thing. So I'm kind of, in my film, they go back and get it and then run tests on it and get all the DNA and whatever. So using that, they specialize it, make it better, blah, 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 to eventually get the xenomorph that we know. Now, so they can control it and it doesn't breed like out of their control. They make it so there's a single queen, which they can, have control over. And then all its offspring are just these drones that are purely killing machines. They're designed to be sent out into war or whatever they could be used for. And then, but the only way to make that work is through this host body that can gestate the fetus and all that sort of thing. So any animal that's got DNA can do this. So, yeah, they have to gestate the alien in like a host, which can be anything, but humans are the best because, I don't know, they're smarter or bigger or whatever. And of course, the company have no moral or ethical qualms with using humans as a breeding ground. So that's not a problem. Then, as a secondary plot line, this is just going to be something that can kind of drop in between because it's designed for a sort of a reveal later on. They are experimenting they've extracted like some sort of enzyme or whatever it is from the xenomorph that allows it to develop and change and kind of using the DNA of its host and basically experiment with all this kind of stuff on human subjects. Okay. So that's going to pay off later. But then for plot purposes, we're going to have something go wrong, or some people start to rebel against what's going on. Or basically at the end of all this, the company has to desert the whole thing and retreat and kind of leave it somewhere and have to get away from it. And then secretly, they're then designing a way to get back to that place, which they do because one of their company's ships is sort of going in that direction, so they set up a way for it to land on there, which is basically Alien. So that's kind of building up to the film Alien. So then, basically the whole twist of all that is that the xenomorphs are not a creature that the company are trying to get to so they can weaponize it. They are a weaponized creature that they have created, and they're trying to regain control over them. And then like that was trying to tie into some of the Prometheus themes of playing God and creating life and all that sort of thing. And then finally, the last twist with those people who were being experimented on, like the human subjects that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
We see them maybe just in a hospital room, something simple like that, but they are being transformed and they're changing and they're mutating and they turn from humans into predators. So predators are just really kind of beefed up humans with some kind of alien in them, like a bit of alien DNA in them. And then so everything comes from the engineers. Everything derives from their basic building blocks, which is DNA. But then how did these predators end up in the past? And how did they end up in the 90s or in Guatemala in the 80s? Maybe they did it through time travel, because we know they can go back into all kinds of times. They went back to catch dinosaurs. Maybe they have actually already existed because they're made from the same building blocks. All the company have done has triggered it in the humans, and the engineers created them somewhere else all along. We don't know any of that. We're setting up further questions for sequels. And then what of the engineers who created them? Where are they now? Where did they come from? So yeah, we're still setting up for further sequels. But that was my attempt to try and tie all of this bullshit together into something that might actually make sense. As much as I could.
Can we have a sequel where we follow an engineer going on a space mission to find its the being that created the engineers?
And then get really pissed off when it
gets really angry, and it's just like. Yeah, and then we have a sequel following that thing doing the same, and it just keeps going like that. And eventually one of them goes to find their maker, and it's Stan Lee. Because he makes
Stan Lee?
Yeah, because he creates everything.
You're quite good, actually. Still alive, isn't he?
Yeah, going strong.
Stan Lee. Hey. Good work, you robot buck. Excelsior!
And then he flies out of the room, and that's the end of the film.
Okay. Anything else?
And then Zyvid goes, "Hello, Stan Lee. I'm Zyvid." And he goes,
"Oh, nice to meet you, David. I'm a big fan."
and I don't know. Hey guys, what would it be like if David Bowie met Stan Lee? I think it would be a little bit like this.
What other impressions can you do?
I can't really do them very well. Which ones can you do? We'll workshop something. Who can you do, Alan? Orson Welles?
No. I can only do Orson Welles trying to sell French champagne. Oh, French champagne.
I think I do a good Alec Guinness.
Oh, Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness is a fine one to... Yeah. Ooh.
Alan, can you do Alec Guinness?
You must go to the Dagobah.
The Dago Bar? What's it called?
These aren't the droids you're
It is Dagobah.
Dago.
But Alec Guinness pronounces it Dagobah.
Isn't Dago a racial slur?
Yeah.
It's like a jackal sort of thing.
No, that's a dingo.
Oh, a dingo. Sorry.
The Dingo Bar.
That Dagobar's got your baby.
You're straying into Stewie Griffin now.
Well, Calvin, I know who you can do. You can do Meryl Streep as Julia. What's she called? That chef.
Oh, hello. Well, you take the eggs and then you put them in the thing, and that sounds like your impression of me.
Well, you do that, and I can be Vincent Price going for a kind. You take the eggs and you whip them into some sort of egg cacophony of eggs.
That's actually brilliant. I think I wrote to a production company about 5 years ago asking if they could send me some of the Vincent Price cookery show because I was so...
You've told me all about this, but I've never seen any proof that it exists. I'm not sure it's even real. I think it might be some fever dream you've had.
No, the only time I ever saw it was they showed a clip of it on Have I Got News For You in like 2009 or something, and I've never been able to find that episode of Have I Got News For You again, so the clip is lost, but yeah, it was a thing.
Alan, can you do an impression of someone like Vincent Price? Or...
was that your Vincent Price?
I think that's a brilliant Vincent Price.
It was good at first. I don't know what that one was.
It was veering into robot devil territory.
Yeah, it was. No, I don't really do impressions.
You must have an impression in you, Alan.
What's my go-to impression? I don't know.
Alan, what about Alan Turing?
I don't even know what he sounded like.
What about Benedict Cumberbatch? We're going to keep going till you give us an impression, Alan.
If you want to escape, you've got to do one.
What about...
Do Louis Walsh.
What is this, Gilmore? You've never heard of it.
Do Kelsey Grammer.
Oh, damn.
What would Kelsey Grammer do if he found himself on board a ship with xenomorphs?
Oh, wouldn't that be brilliant? Kelsey Grammer was in one of these films.
I could see him popping up in one of the future ones as some sort of...
What?
Yeah, do you not think he might get cast as like a businessman, like one of the like the CEO or something, sent off to do some alien shit?
Yeah, actually, now that you say it, yeah, that would make sense.
So Alien, that was seminal work, innit?
Brilliant film.
Yeah, well,
top notch.
Aliens, eggs. I think eggs is the word I have to say to get into the voice. Eggs. Eggs. No, I think I've lost it.
Eggs. I could do Edie from Pink Flamingo saying eggs.
So there you go, that was Alien Season, completed with our look at Prometheus. I hope you enjoyed that. Alien Covenant is currently out in cinemas, so yeah, let us know what you think. I've already seen it, in fact, and we'll be doing a big retrospective episode looking back at the last 6 months or so in the next few weeks, so I won't spoil you with an in-depth review, but let's just say it was everything I wanted Prometheus to be, and I really loved it. If you've seen it, as I say, please do come and get involved in the discussion on our Facebook page and our Twitter, and, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And just, thanks for listening. Oh, and be sure to come back next week when we're back to our usual way of doing things. None of this season business. Yes, next week we'll be diving into the waters of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Yeah, see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Alan Rickman. Ho, ho, ho. I'm Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman. And then Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons is a bit more well-spoken, isn't he? He's a bit more up here. Hello, Mr. Wayne. I won't let you go out and throw your life away, Bruce, you bloody doors off. Don't blow the bloody doors off, you! She was only 16.